Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? Really like that. You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a terrific Tuesday evening. We got a loaded show for you guys tonight. Sorry, we are indeed about 10 minutes late. There were some power outages here in the Jefferson County area. Word is, gentlemen, that the ops heard the rants last night, and they were just too fire. Couldn't have them doubling down for 2 nights in a row, but nonetheless.
Not on time, at least.
Yeah, not on time. Definitely not on time. Got to mess up the algorithm just a little bit. But we are here. We do have a loaded show for you guys tonight. I want to go ahead and ask you up front. Here's how you know it's jam-packed. I want to go ahead and ask you up front to hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, and review. We'll give a shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks at the culmination of this opening rant, but I do have one for you. Jaden Rashada is suing Billy Napier, a man by the name of Hugh Hatchcock, which anytime I see the name Hugh Hatchcock, I immediately think, gotta be the money. Hugh Hatchcock and a man named Marcus Castro Walker, who has already been fired from the Florida, coaching staff for, quote, a failed name, image, and likeness deal that would have paid Jaden Rashada $13.85 million. This comes straight from the report today because I do the reading because you don't. And so you don't have to. Quote, the complaint filed in Pensacola Division of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida details a number of counts alleging Napier, Hatchcock, and others fraudulently induced Rashada, a then highly regarded high school prospect, to attend Florida with no intention of following through their financial promises. Specifically, the lawsuit claims, quote, fraudulent misrepresentation and inducement, aiding and abetting fraud, civil conspiracy to commit fraud, negligent misrepresentation, torturous interference with a business relationship or contract, and aiding and abetting torturous interference. These are not light claims. These are not light words. Anytime I see a conspiracy to commit fraud, woo! those are big allegations right there. This is a quote directly from the lawsuit. Quote, Hatchcock, on behalf of himself and Velocity Automotive, the company that he owns, that he was going to siphon some of this money through, Castro Walker and Coach Napier orchestrated and executed a fraud upon Jaden and were substantially and knowingly assisted by one another in carrying out the fraud, the lawsuit says. Each of their individual schemes would not have succeeded without the assistance from one another. Bottom line, Jaden Rashada's lawyers are out here under the impressions that they will win this lawsuit because these 3 individuals conspired to lie to this young man, get him to their university with no intentions to ever pay him his money. They also go on to mention in this article that obviously Florida had to talk Rashada out of his commitment to Miami, which was not just a verbal commitment. The reports say that he committed to a $9.5 million NIL deal with John Ruiz, which is the whole purpose of this lawsuit. The whole grounds of this lawsuit are that Billy Napier and this Hatchcock individual and their director of player personnel at the time conspired to cut him out of this $9.5 million deal that he had with Miami. The interesting part about this, however, is that John Ruiz came out today and was like, I don't know what deal y'all talking about. I ain't never offered no $9.5 million deal. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. But nonetheless, they're suing for $9.5 million in retribution and in payments made back because they talked him out of this Miami deal. And Miami's out here like, we never offered anything like that, nor was there ever a contract. Don't know what that guy's talking about. Very interesting. Again, we will get back to that in here in just a second. They continue in this reporting. To sway Rashada's decisions, Hatchcock and Castro Walker offered the $13.85 million deal with a $5.35 million, including a $500,000 signing bonus, to come through Hatchcock's Velocity Automotive Company and the rest through Gator Guard, the NIL collective that he started. So he was going to put $5.5 million through this company that he owned and the other $8 million through the actual NIL collective that they had created out there at Florida. Hatchcock had previously committed to donating $12.6 million to the Gator Boosters, and early media reports stated that the Gator Guard raised $5 million in his first 24 hours, basically telling you that this was the guy and how he was going to put this money together. They continue. Before the deal was finalized, however, Hatchcock informed Rashada's representatives that he no longer wanted to route the NIL payments through his company because he planned to sell it, according to the lawsuit. Instead, he and Castro Walker proposed money coming directly from Hatchcock and the rest coming through the Gator Collective, Florida's other NIL collective. That involved Eddie Rojas, the CEO of the Gator Collective, who allegedly texted Zager about the impending deal. So we have these two collectives now being tied up in this with their correspondence between one another. A text from Rojas, who allegedly texted Zager, I guess is the agent here, saying, quote, "Tell Jaden we look forward to setting him up for life. Need to set up his brokerage accounts ASAP. Dude is rich and we just got started." The deal was officially signed November 10th, 2022, with the first $500,000 payment due to Rashada December 5th. So there you have it. I love that quote right there. Quote, "Dude's already rich and we just got started." Love that right there. All cap, by the way. None of this actually came to fruition, as they continue to talk about in this article. It all came to a head on December 21st, the first day of the early signing period, where Napier allegedly personally vouched to Rashada that Florida alumni, quote, "were good on their promise that Jaden would receive $1 million if he signed with UF on National Signing Day, and that Hatchcock would make that payment." Harlan Rashada later texted Zager, quote, "Coach Napier said Hatchcock's on a plane and that he will wire $1 million. He wants the paperwork and I am sending it if you are good." In other words, Napier contacted Jaden Rashada's camp and said, "Hey, send in the paperwork. We'll wire transfer you $1 million instantly." Obviously, that never happened. Harden told CBS Sports that Napier never should have been making those promises, which at the time were also against NCAA rules. Quote, "That's not a role he should have been involved in. He shouldn't have made those promises, and he should have stayed out of the whole area. He, quote, didn't." In total, the lawsuit argues that Rashada is the victim of a new world where boosters have never had more influence. Quote, "Jaden's miserable experience reveals in stark and dramatic detail what can happen to young student athletes when wealthy, win-at-all-cost alumni insert themselves into college football's recruitment process." So here's my thing. At this point, after reading all of this, I came to this conclusion. I have real questions of Rashada's actual case here, to be honest with you. If you listen to that and if you read the reports today, they ripped up his contract, his $13.85 million contract. They ripped it up before National Signing Day. He didn't actually have an NIL contract to sign. And at that point, it was basically, hey, we promise. We promise if you come here, we will get you your money. Napier's calling, promising $1 million signing bonus. The boosters on the plane. Don't worry. We promise when he lands, everything will be fine. They ultimately say, okay, we'll sign the paperwork. We'll send the national letter of intent. And obviously, the $1 million is never wired. In fact, reports say the only money that ever changed hands with regards to Jaden Rashada was a $150,000 payment that Hitchcock, or whatever his name is, Hugh, our boy with the money, actually wired to Ruiz to avoid any type of legislation or any type of lawsuit that Ruiz would bring up for them poaching this player. So that's the only money that was ever changing hands. Florida giving Ruiz money to keep his mouth shut for the activities that they did to get Rashada there in the first place.
Yeesh.
A mess.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think there's any this is a he said, she said type of lawsuit at this point. This will do nothing in other words than just drag Florida through the mud for the next foreseeable future, however long this lasts. Welcome in, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine this is just another nail in the Billy Napier coffin if the 2024 season doesn't go well for him. Now, this is kind of falling on his lap. I mean, the Jaden Rashada situation's kind of already looked like as a massive fumble on there, and now you've got this lawsuit going on. Now, no matter whether it ends in them being upheld or not, it's still a horrible look for him.
It's funny to me. It's just college football humor to me that this individual, now granted, this lawsuit was filed a long time ago. Like they started the processes of this lawsuit being filed the moment he asked for his letter of intent to be revoked. So this started back in like 2023, early 2024, when they started putting together this package to go after, Billy Napier and sue these folks for retribution payments. So obviously you would have known that Kirby Smart knew about this when he went about recruiting this individual. But to me, it is college football humor that a Georgia football player is filing a lawsuit to sue the Florida head football coach. And oh, by the way, the NCAA can't do shit to said Florida football coach because Tennessee whipped their ass in court.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all see the spider web I'm what do you call it, wielding at this point right here? Very kind of interesting crossovers that we have between perennial rivals.
SEC, baby, it just means more.
You could say something like that. It does indeed mean more. I thought there was a lot of funny coming out of this. It's not funny that this kid got screwed out of $13 million, almost $14 million. But the payment plan on this is absurd to me. It is absurd that I would almost fire Billy Napier off of the idea that he was going to give a high school football player this kind of money. The reports came out today that he was going to get paid $250,000 a month for the first year he was on campus. As a true freshman, they were going to give this man $250,000 a month. All right. His sophomore year, that was set to escalate to $291,666 a month. His junior year, they were going to pay him $375,000 a month. And his senior year, it was going to drop down to the lowest annual value at $195,000 a month. I don't think this is a good look for Florida, period. I don't think it's a good look that obviously that they're getting their head coach is getting sued or brought up in a lawsuit. I also think it's a worse look that they were going to delve out some of this money to, by the way, I mean, like none of these guys are 100% guaranteed hits. Mm-hmm. Like none of them. And I think Jaden Rashada is immensely talented. I think he's a really, really good quarterback. I don't think he's worth $14 million. I damn sure didn't think he was worth $14 million coming out of high school because I don't think anybody's worth that kind of a promise coming out of high school. We're at a hit rate of about 1 out of every 3 5-star quarterbacks. I think that's what we're at right now over the last 10 years of this sport. Just because you're highly rated, you guys know this, doesn't mean you're going to be good. Does not mean you're going to be good. They made a $14 million gamble. By the way, they didn't even have the $14 million in their bank account, obviously, based off how they, rescinded this offer immediately upon him getting on campus. So just one thing after another with Florida down there.
That just makes me wonder what DJ Lagway's contract looks like. Because if this is what Jaden Rashada looks like, and you're talking about DJ Lagway, who's supposed to almost be pointed to as potentially the savior of this program with Billy Napier, if that's how much you were offering Jaden Rashada, I would both hate and love to know what that contract looks like.
Yeah, I mean the fact that Miami was going to pay him $8 million too, like
9.5.
Yeah, like is that our quarterback's that valuable coming out of high school?
According to a study or a report that was out later that we're going to talk about, the average cost of a starter. Annual value right now at quarterback, I got the right here in my notes. Annual value for a quarterback is averaging $500,000 to $800,000 a year. So they would have been paying about 3x market value his senior year at the lowest annual value, about 4x, 5x annual value his junior year.
He's good at bargaining for himself, that's for sure.
Is he though? Because he went to Arizona State with no NIL, says the reports. And he got finagled out of all the money down there. Florida didn't get a single dime from them per reports. So is he
good enough to have people offer it to him? I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami offering 9.5 supposedly, which they say that they never even offered that, but 9.5. Everything that happened at Florida, then you would have to assume too. Like you didn't come to Georgia for free, but
Right.
I don't think anyone's playing for free nowadays.
Yeah.
Except for maybe some real small end power fours
Kickers.
And almost all of the mid-majors. But even mid-major coaches that I talk to, they're like, no, we got some packages. Now, we're not out here paying $40,000 a month, $50,000 a month like the power four schools are, but we got some bread for these guys, but not a ton. So yeah, this is the idea, again, that you were going to be giving $375,000 a month to anybody. is absurd to me. I think I would have been out here going crazy just off those reportings, let alone, again, the lawsuit. But the lawsuit, to me, again, is a nothing story, or relatively nothing story, other than it's in the headlines. The NCAA can't do anything about this. We all know that. And like I told you, I think the case is very much so a he said, she said thing at this point, and it's a verbal agreement, which I don't know how much verbal agreements hold up in the court of law unless Dummy was dumb enough to text these things. You would imagine he was smart enough to do these things over the phone. You would also imagine that if someone were promising you $1 million to turn in a letter of intent, you would probably be recording that conversation. Mm-hmm. I would let that person know they're being recorded, but I would. If we're out here talking about millions of promising dollars, we're going to get you on record somehow.
Florida, a one-party state.
Say what?
I'm looking up the legality of that.
Of recording?
Yeah, irrelevant.
Yeah. What is that called?
One party state.
I like that. All right, welcome into tonight's show. We do indeed have a loaded one for you. We told you last night this House versus NCAA lawsuit probably going to be settled far before you imagine it will be. We'll talk about that tonight, as one conference unanimously agreed to the settlement terms today. We have the top 25, way too early top 25 ESPN rankings. We're going to give you our reactions off of that. Again, as I told you, we do have the average cost of a starter via a CBS report that came out yesterday. A change to the National Signing Day windows is occurring. Paul Feinbaum, I know it's off-season when Paul Feinbaum out here putting folks on hot seats. Paul Feinbaum put a very prominent football coach on a hot seat today, and Florida State's athletic director gave one of the weirdest quotes I've ever seen in my life regarding conference realignment, and it kind of flashed some bulbs off into my head of some conversations that I heard on the recruiting trail this spring. So we'll be talking to you guys about that tonight. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and review and all that good stuff. Also giving a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you have not already, please head over to prizepicks.com, use promo code Brooks. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100 in your account, you will instantly get matched with $100 in your account right there on the spot for all new users. So please head over there, support those who support us here on this network. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and for sure, make sure you're subscribing. If you miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, it will be made readily available however and wherever you find your podcast. All right, told you the House versus NCAA lawsuit is coming to a head. Told you last night that this could get resolved as early as the end of the week, and it was announced today that the Big 12 voted unanimously to agree to the settlement terms. Again, they voted unanimously, and sources told ESPN, I read in an article today, that there is, quote, little to no backlash on the conference level as a whole. So all of the conferences will likely come to some type of unanimous vote, or at least a majority vote, which is what it requires to agree upon this settlement. And apparently there is also no backlash expected from the NCAA. So as we expected, because there is such a 3x, there is a 3x penalty for the actual lawsuit for this. If it were to be settled in court and determined in court as opposed to settled outside of court, the court will establish a 3x penalty. The $2.7 billion lawsuit will ultimately escalate to north of 6, almost over 7.1, I believe would be that math on that. $7.1 billion would be the settlement on that lawsuit if it actually lost in court, which, if you haven't been paying attention, the NCAA has been getting whipped like Vandy in the court systems, okay? They're just out here taking L's left and right. Vandy caught a stray, my bad. That's what happens when the boy ad-libs. Anyways, so sources, everybody saying everyone's going to bend over and kind of take this one off the chin, and just accept the penalties that are coming. So what are the penalties that are coming? What is this settlement going to bring? We told you a little bit last night. Let's refresh it here today. $2.7 billion in retribution dating back a decade. So if you played Power 5 athletics over the last decade, you will probably be contacted soon about being a plaintiff in the NCAA settlement, if you will, in the House versus NCAA lawsuit. So if you've been playing football or basketball the last 10 years, be on the lookout, pay attention, update, make sure your addresses are updated accurately, make sure your contact information is updated accurately wherever it needs to be, because there's $2.7 billion coming back. $1 billion of that $2.7 billion will be withheld Okay, so it won't have to be paid out immediately. It will be withheld from future revenue earnings from NCAA events like the basketball tournament or like college football seasons in and of themselves. Also coming out of this settlement will be a $20 million annual rev share. That is how we will operate under the quote-unquote New World Order of college football, which I will talk to you about in just a second. That's what we're calling it. I don't know what everyone else is calling it. I'm calling it the New World Order of college football. Because that's what we're under. We're about to experience a brand new world of college football that we did not know previous. So there is that. Apparently, they have until 2025 to figure out how the rev share will actually be distributed, and they won't start that until 2025. That gives them the remaining time to basically figure out all the ancillary problems with all this, whether it be Title IX, whether it be, hey, what happens to the non-revenue producing sports? Oh, by the way, basketball produces revenue at North Carolina. It does not produce revenue at Georgia. That $20 million rev share, does North Carolina have to give a portion of that their basketball program, but Georgia doesn't? All of these things will be figured out post haste. Okay. The good news out of this, I know everyone probably freaks out when they hear about all these changes. The good news is because the NCAA has bent the knee to rev sharing, there's not a strong possibility, but there is a likely possibility that the government will actually now help and actually now go about sanctioning this and actually go about establishing some nationwide orders and nationwide rules and stipulations for this, because the whole reason the government has never waded into these waters of helping the NCAA is because of the antitrust lawsuits. They believe the NCAA has always been a sham. We've talked to you about this for a while. They believe the NCAA has always been kind of not necessarily a Ponzi scheme, but just a business built on empty promises and empty will. And oh, by the way, they don't pay their labor. They violate every antitrust law that we have here in this country. So no, we're not going to help you. Now that you've gone about rectifying that antitrust lawsuit issue, you might actually see some type of help from the government in terms of legislation. That is good news, because that's something we've all been clamoring for across the board. Everybody wants a commissioner. Commissioners are great. I want nationwide legislation. Be damned the commissioner. The commissioner can't enforce anything because there's nothing nationally to enforce. So there's that. All right. So, gentlemen, we got all of this coming down, right? We got $2.7 billion in retribution payments having to be paid out eventually. All this stuff. Schools under tremendous amounts of fiscal stress, you would imagine, right?
Yeah.
You would imagine every athletic director and every president of every major university is clinging tight to every dollar that they have, right?
Most likely.
I would think.
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, we don't need to be doing any type of stadium renovations. We definitely don't need to be building any type of new baseball facilities. We don't need to be doing any of this because we don't know what kind of money we're going to have to be paying out, right?
Yeah.
Penn State just approved $700 million worth of stadium renovations.
Nice. Good jobs, Penn State.
So and this is what, it was literally on On3, it was the article after the article about this settlement. And it tipped off to me the first thing when I was like, oh, some of these schools are obviously not as afraid of this settlement as others. Duh. We play on very different playing fields at every single one of these universities. Every single one of these universities has a very different set of resources and has a very different set of, power, and has a very distinct and unique version of wealth, and has, this school has X amount of money. This school has no money. This school is going to be able to afford the payments and more. This school is deathly terrified that they might have to cut all sports in general. That is where we are right now, where we have some schools that are like, I don't know. I don't know about the money coming in for the next decade. I don't know what anything's going to look like in this sport. And you got other schools being out here like, $700 million.
Didn't Missouri also just recently approve?
That was donor. That was one donor. One donor gave like $50 million. I think it was 65. $65 million to Missouri. 12 of that going directly into NIL, and the other 50 going to the stadium renovations. So yeah, you're right. They just got one, but that was one booster stroking a check. I don't know how. Jesus.
Good for that guy, dude.
Yeah, good for that. Hey, why do you assume it's a guy?
Yeah.
It's 2024.
Didn't the report
could have been Bezos'
ex-wife? Didn't the report say it was a guy?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you shit.
I mean, if it was
I wanted to honestly
make
the Bezos' ex-wife joke.
Oh, well then.
That was about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Northwestern's about to just stay on the soccer field and not ever build a stadium.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy.
The one by the lake? Honestly, it's kind of sick. You're never going to have fans there, but...
It is kind of sick.
It is pretty cool.
Except for it's by a lake, and in the winter, that some bitch gonna be cold.
Is he gonna be in the video game?
No. They'll put the regular stadium in the video game.
For sure.
And then have to renew it when they build the new stadium, you would imagine. All right, I mentioned the New World Order. That's what we're going to call it. The College Football New World Order. $20 million of annual rev share. Okay, that's what we know. That's what we think we know. It's what the number is going to be. If you ask me who it goes to, I don't know. It's like what we were talking about earlier. Do you give it to basketball players too? Do you give it to football players? How do you distribute that? Is there a salary cap? We know there's going to be a salary cap, but is there a salary cap for how much you can pay one individual? Or is there a salary cap for your roster? How does that work? How are you going to go about doing that? That would be my question. I would imagine rev share is straight base. We get $20 million. We divide it by 85, whatever. We give everybody that amount of money. I don't know. That would be my thought process, but maybe they just say, hey, here's $20 million. Go distribute it how you want. I don't know how they're going to do it. That's the question still left out there, but we do indeed know there will be a salary cap. We also know that name, image, and likeness is not going by the wayside. It's not going to cease to exist after this, even when revenue sharing becomes about. However, we do know that name, image, and likeness, the whole industry will have an enforcement agency, put into place after this rectification of this lawsuit. So that's good news. We'll actually have an enforcement agency about this name, image, and likeness. So you're not just going to have these pay-for-play initiatives, I would imagine, even though maybe bag dropping still exists. I'm going to let you know bag dropping is going to still exist.
Of course. Okay.
Cash payments will always be around college football the rest of time. Matter of fact, I think cash payments probably going to be around American industries forever.
Yeah.
The old, here's some incentives. Here's some sway. You know what I mean? Hey, do this for me.
Here's a McDonald's bag.
Yeah, a little something. Here, a little Niedermeyer special. That kind of thing. So that's good news, in my opinion, that we're actually going to have some enforcement agency. And I would imagine through this, we're going to get some type of contract that players have to sign, which might tie them and create some type of roster stability, because it might tie them and their likeness to that individual school for a year or however long the contract life ultimately ends up being. And you would imagine with contracts, we'll also get some type of collectively bargained agreement between players and schools, which is going to be a nightmare. I don't know how you collectively bargain. I would imagine maybe the Power Four collectively bargains together, and then the other schools maybe member and band together and do some type of collective bargaining. But because they're all bargaining for such different ranges of income. The Tennessee safety and the Georgia quarterback live in a total different world of income and salary distributions than the guy who plays football at Charleston Southern.
Yeah.
Like, those guys aren't even close.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the starting quarterback for the most prestigious NFL team and the third string guys making $500K a year, they're on different realms too. So I mean, I guess that there's going to be some stability in that, like having some sort of PA. I think the real challenge you're going to run to is the quantity of people you're going to have on it.
Yeah,
like the NFL PA is like what, like a couple thousand. You're going to have
not even that. It's 53 times 32. That's 1,500. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
shut up.
So I mean, but you're going to have like upwards of 25,000 with college football. Yeah. So
it's a lot.
Definitely a lot.
Also, last question. Don't even ask me what this means for Title IX sports. I don't have a clue.
No clue.
I don't have a clue.
I don't think they know either.
I don't think so. I think what they're hoping is that revenue sports can fund this $20 million hit by themselves annually. Yeah. And maybe we just cut back on the women's basketball team traveling to Europe on a chartered flight.
Yeah.
And maybe the assistant basketball coach doesn't make $300,000. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the outrageous salary increases that have happened since football has boomed to the rate that it has.
Sure.
Funding all the money into these schools. I would imagine as Ohio State's football income has skyrocketed from, $80 million to $250 million, and we can't pay our athletes, and we are a non-revenue entity, I would imagine there's been some drastic salary increases over the last 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Of people who work for the school, because they ain't got nowhere to put the money. You can only build so many buildings before, you have to increase your overhead just to get rid of the cash. So that kind of stuff will ultimately stop, you would imagine, once these budgets start getting squeezed by $20 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting for the Big Ten, though. Like, if you're the lacrosse team for Stanford and you have to travel to Ohio State, or the USC golf team or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, even worse for Stanford, you're going all the way to the East Coast. It's not even Midwest. They're in the ACC, so it's coast to coast.
I don't think we're anywhere close to the finishing of conference realignment. I also think within the next 10 years, we could look up and conferences look exactly like they did 5 years ago. You know, it was just figure out that this little experiment is a dud. But that whole idea of us returning to what it used to look like kind of got killed when the Pac-12 died.
Yeah.
So, and I don't see it coming back anytime soon.
I don't think they're going to ever add more conferences at this rate. I think it's only going to be, you're going to get swallowed up into more and more and just have bigger, smaller, like less conferences, but more size ones.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, I'm good on the new world order of college football. I'm good with talking about House versus NCAA until Thursday because I'm sure somebody else will unanimously agree to the settlements here. We'll put that out on Patreon. No point in putting that out right now in the open. Appreciate you though, Unc. All right, let's talk about the top 25 rankings that came out from ESPN the other day. Let me pull these up right quick I'm just going to read them off real quick to everybody so everybody knows where we're at. It's of course not on the home page. Here it is. CFP rankings released.
I got them if you want me to read them.
Yeah, read them off for me, bud.
All right. For the ESPN Top 25 rankings, we got Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 2, Texas number 3, Oregon number 4, Notre Dame number 5, Ole Miss number 6, Alabama number 7, Missouri coming in at number 8, Utah at number 9, and Michigan rounding off the top 10. Florida State at number 11, 12 you got Penn State, 13 NC State, 14 LSU, 15 Tennessee, 16 Clemson, 17 Kansas State, 18 Oklahoma, 19 Oklahoma State, 20 Arizona, 21 Virginia Tech, 22 Kansas, 23 Iowa, 24 Miami, and 25 USC.
Damn flies.
Yeah, the podcast scripts, what the hell is he
doing? All
doing?
this money.
Audio popping, what the heck?
Spend all this money on this nice studio, and we got flies running around because of different things. We had to leave doors open.
Yeah, power now, dude. That's not.
It is what it is.
It's got nothing to do with the studio.
Nothing to do with the expensive studio.
That's the ops.
All right. In immediate reactions off this, boys, I got several. First and foremost, Notre Dame at number 5, despite Brandon Crawford's way too early top 25. Do y'all know who Brandon Crawford is?
I know who he is, but
Brandon Crawford works for 24/7 Sports, and he released a top 25, and it had no Notre Dame on it.
Oh.
And instead of just going, hey guys, obviously I forgot. Sorry. He doubled, tripled, quadrupled down, was in the replies talking about new quarterback, questionable weapons. Have you seen the schedule? Yada, yada, yada. Went through a whole bunch of, and honestly, I get it. I've done these lists before, and every time I forget somebody.
Yeah.
Or, I do player lists, and I'm like prospect lists or whatever, and I forget somebody. And somebody's like, hey, what about so-and-so? Man, sometimes you're just better off being like, hey, man, sometimes I forgot. Also, the editor of that, whoever made that graphic, come on, dude. You got to throw up a flag or something. You got to be like, hey, Brandon, you forgot Notre Dame, right? And be like, oh, shit, just slide them in at 8. Bump Iowa State out of the top 25, whoever it is. I can't have Notre Dame fans in my mentions. He failed to do so. Notre Dame fans got after his ass.
But honestly, it might even be a smart move for him because he's either going to be able to tell everybody he was the smartest person in the room at the end of the season, or nobody's even going to talk about it. Like, I highly doubt anybody's going to call back to Brandon Crawford's way too early top 25 rankings at the end of next college football season. But if you're right, you certainly can and say, look, I told you Notre Dame wasn't going to be ranked this year.
My biggest takeaway so far is USC could spend the entire season unranked.
Yeah.
Like, with the exception of obviously week 1, like if you lose to LSU, you obviously are going to play Utah State, then you have to travel to Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland. Like, there's a good chance that they don't make it back into the rankings if they lose to
until
LSU
late in the season. Because they do have 2 potential early losses right there on the slate.
Yeah.
Very likely that they lose those games.
One of my reactions was there's 5 SEC teams in the top 10, I believe.
Yeah, Georgia's got 3 opponents on the schedule inside the top 16.
Nice. Good job, Georgia.
Excuse me, 5 opponents on the schedule inside the top 16.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
The first time?
Yeah.
Is Utah properly ranked in your opinion?
Yeah, hyped yet again, man. I think they're a little too hyped for me, particularly how they finished the season last year. I know Cam Rising wasn't there, but
It's so hard though with
They got
these
thumped.
It's so hard with these rankings though, because like putting Utah at number 9 might just be a projection of they're the best team in the Big 12. They're going to make the final 12 cut, and they're going to be one of the top 5 seeds or top 4 seeds in this college football playoff because you get an automatic bid for winning your conference. Like, it's hard for me. That's why I like Utah at number 9. Like, okay, I might get it, because if they are the best Big 12 team, they're probably going to remain in the top 10 throughout the entire season.
Yeah, but like we were talking about when he wasn't here, like we looked at the win totals for Big 12 teams. Utah is obviously in the lead. Guess what their win total is?
8.5.
9.5.
Ooh.
Like, is that a top 10 team to you that they're predicted to at best win 10 games in their Big 12 conference that doesn't have Oklahoma or Texas anymore? Like, are you to convince me that's a top 10 team just because, you know, they might run the table in a Power 4 conference?
And that was interesting to me for sure.
And if I remember correctly, when we were looking at Utah's schedule, like they don't play Kansas or Kansas State, I don't believe. They don't even play 2 of the top other Big 12 teams that people are really growing a liking towards this next year. So it's a cakewalk of a schedule essentially for them in their first year in this conference. And people still are saying like, 9 wins, maybe 10. We'll see.
Yeah. And then they're trying to tell you that they're a top 10 team.
Ole Miss over Alabama was intriguing to me. I think that's a classic. Nick Saban's no longer here.
Well, it's also like, look at all what Lane Kiffin did this year to add to his roster. Like, this has got to be Lane Kiffin's best roster ever.
One of these 5 SEC teams is going to absolutely flame out this year.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see which one it is. I think most people would narrow it down between Ole Miss and Missouri because those seem like the 2 teams, or even I guess some people probably would even throw Alabama in this mix as well. But yeah, I'd say really you narrow it down to the 3 of Alabama, Ole Miss, and Missouri. Of like one of those 3 is just going to absolutely.
All right, 6, 7, and 8 right there. Those 3 schools: Ole Miss, Alabama, Missouri. Who's the highest ranked team out of those 3 at the end of the year?
Jeez,
that's really tough.
Missouri's got the easier run, don't they?
Yeah, their schedule's not bad.
Their schedule's way easier.
And they catch Georgia at home late in the season. That could, if they win that game, they're in the top 10 no matter what. I'll say Ole Miss just because
Ole Miss has no Bama, but they played Georgia and Texas, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, you played Georgia at home late in the season. I think Texas is a home game.
Dude, I'm going to say Missouri.
You think so?
Dude, listen to this.
The schedule, that's what I'm saying. It's cake.
The schedule, it is. It's Murray State.
SEC cake.
Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, UMass, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas.
If they're not 9-0 going into that Alabama game, then they have no shot to win this argument.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. But they should be 9-0.
So you got to show up for really a 3-week stretch of Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma.
Then yeah, I like Missouri.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
funny because I was literally just about to Drink though. Do we trust any of these guys?
I don't know what to do with Drink. Drink missed our year 3 conversation last night.
Oh,
he's in year 3.
It's not a make or break year for him though. Like,
no, because he had the 10-win year last year. But like, I don't know how many examples of this we have. But he's not the first to go 5-7 or 7-5, 5-7, whatever it was, year 1, close to 500, and then. Boom, top 10 team. Here we are. We have arrived. Have you? Like you got to double down. They got to do it again.
They had a fairly old roster
for real. Believe that? Huh?
Yeah,
they had a fairly old roster.
Defensively, last year they did, but that was the weird thing. It took them a while to start playing like they should on the defensive side of the football last year. Offense kind of carried them early on in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So we'll see. And now it's a very different story than last year. Last year they had 10 returning defensive starters. This year they basically returned their whole offense, and the defense needs to fill some holes. So very different. And by the way, they've pounded the transfer portal on the defensive side of the football, most notably Darius Smith from Georgia. So
I was literally about
to a thought that I had.
I was about to go into that conversation saying I trust Missouri the least almost for them to be ranked higher than Ole Miss or Alabama, but the schedule, that alone makes me very intrigued to say that they very well could, just because they have the easiest path to doing it.
I trust that Lane Kiffin, you can almost always guarantee an 8-4, 9-3 season out of Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
I think with this roster that you have and the fact that he doesn't have to play Bama this year, I'm going to say that he's he's looking at a 10-2 season. Which
sorry. No,
go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was going to say he's also guaranteed to freaking throw one in the trash against a top-ranked team.
Yeah.
That's true.
Especially on the road.
That's true, but I mean, you have less top-ranked teams to do it against. Like, you don't have Nick Saban against you this year. So, I mean, I'm still going to go with Lane Kiffin just because he's the proven commodity in these three coaches. Like, Kalen DeBoer's never had an SEC schedule. He's working with a team that's essentially not really his. Drinkowitz is in year 3. Yeah, he had an incredible year 2, but do we really believe that wasn't a fluke? So I'm going to go with Lane Kiffin.
I got one
tentatively
for you that I keep seeing that I just don't understand. Doesn't make any sense to me. I think NC State was 14th on this.
Yeah, they're outside of Florida State. They're the second highest.
Guys, they have a brand new quarterback in Grayson McCall. Just got there in January. Who, by the way, has regressed. It's not even a debatable topic. He has regressed. The best year of Grayson McCall's career was in 2020 during COVID, right?
I remember when him and Zach Wilson.
And do y'all remember what offense Coastal was running?
It's like a spread funning gun.
It was like a triple option out of the gun, dude. Yeah. They were like mesh option, heavy RPO, like pitching the ball, like for real, running the option out of the gun. And then they tried to kind of, hey, we have Grayson McCall. Let's try to drop back, throw the ball. Didn't go well. If y'all remember, 2021 was not great for Coastal. I think he got banged up. 2022, same kind of story. Wasn't great for him at Coastal. Kind of got banged up. He's going to NC State, and people are talking about him like he's got potential to maybe be the best quarterback in the ACC or maybe be the key to NC State, finally getting over the hump. And I'm just looking at it like, guys, have we not watched the same Grayson McCall the last couple of years? Because I'm going to tell you what, I haven't really watched him. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't watched him. But I know it ain't been like it was in 2020 because I haven't been watching him. You see what I'm saying? It was Coastal. They weren't dominating the last 2 years despite the fact that they had this guy at quarterback. So there's that. Also, I got intel that he can't really read the field. Can't really progress through his reads. So there's that. All right. So they have a new quarterback, Grayson McCall, who I'm not exactly a believer in, as I just stated. Their entire running back corps, brand new transfers. Their entire wide receiver corps, brand new transfers. Ooh. Oh, by the way, brand new tight end. Their whole offensive weaponry just got there. Oh, ooh. Let's rank them inside the top 15. Guys, it's not just the offensive side of the football either. On the defensive side of the football, they got 7 brand new guys on the 2 deep. 7 of their 22 guys just got there. I don't get it. I really don't. They're a patchwork unit, and I have seen this story over and over and over again of patchwork units that look good on paper that fall just like paper mache during a football season.
I think this is just a reflection of how the lack of trust in the ACC this year and the unknown of the ACC this year, because they put them ahead of Clemson. Clemson's at 16, and I think that's a reflection of what people think of Clemson and kind of what they expect them to do this season. But I mean, Virginia Tech's at 21. I feel like the Virginia Tech hype over the last 3 weeks has just been pumped and pumped and pumped, kind of like this, where it feels like it's coming out of nowhere. And really, the only thing behind the Virginia Tech hype is, oh, well, they rank number 1 in returning production. Well, and we got in the same conversation the other night with Oklahoma is, well, that's great. You were 50th in scoring defense, and you were 39th in scoring offense. That doesn't exactly move the needle a whole lot. Yeah,
the only justification I have for this is that their schedule's fairly manageable. It's Tennessee to week 2, Clemson in week 4, and then it's a bunch of mid. Then you close out the season at Georgia Tech, at North Carolina.
This is Virginia Tech?
This is NC State.
Okay, NC
Chad's
State.
got a good point. I mean, national media loves Dave Doeren. He's a good football coach. I mean, I think the last couple of years, the lowest win total is probably 8 through NC State's career. So that they don't, or history, they don't lose a bunch of games, but they're not. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe they think that, hey, this is a perennial 8-5 football program that has added some keynote pieces, added some solid pieces. Maybe they finally get over that 10-win hump.
They could also be one of these teams that are benefiting from the fact that you're not in divisions anymore. Like the Missouris of the world, where you're trapped in a division where you always have to play Georgia, you always have to play, a really good Tennessee team, things like that. When that kind of opens up, you don't have to play. Now, obviously, there's still really good teams in the ACC, but the fact that they're not in a division with Florida State anymore, or they don't have to play Florida State this year, really helps their case. So that might be another aspect to it.
And I mean,
the reality of it is 14 is not super high. It's not egregiously high.
It is, though, when Florida State is at 11 and then you're putting NC State essentially right behind them, though. That's my whole thing of this is the entire reflection of the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just if you told me we would play the entire 2024 season, we get to the end of it, and NC State's ranked 19th, I wouldn't be that surprised.
Sure.
I think I guess that's the only reason I'm somewhat okay with the ranking. I do think
I'm looking at it right here. They've only won fewer than 7 games twice since 2010.
Wow. Solid.
So in the last 15 years, they've basically averaged 8-5, 7-4. Their last under 500 season was in 2019. They went 4-8. But so Dave Doran, oh my God, I didn't realize how long he's been there. He's been there since 2013. Been there a long time. This will be his 11th year coaching at NC State. He only has 2 years on the history books that are under 500.
See the Mike Van Gundy of the ACC?
That's a great comp. It's not a bad comp at all.
Just consistently solid.
I'll tell you what, he's damn sure better than Mark Stoops, who I stand on the damn mountain for every time. I mean, God dang. I mean, Mark Stoops is perennially 7-5 in the SEC. We give him love for that.
Hey, not to do the thing though, but Mark Stoops could do that in the ACC.
You think so?
Yeah,
I think so. I think so.
I said not to do the thing, but
and then proceeded to do the thing.
I know.
All right, so yeah, Mark Stoops does not have this track record. Mark Stoops got a 2-10 on there, 1, 2, 3, 5-7s.
Mark,
yeah, and a bunch of 7-6.
Oh, fraud.
And that 1-10 win season with that got
no wonder he didn't get the Texas A&M
that got old
job.
mayonnaise in the coffee a second round draft pick. What's his name? Will Levis. Old Swolger. He is handsome though.
Sure is, man.
He is handsome. He's good looking. Good looking dude. All right, I'm good on that. Y'all good on that? Oh, I got a question for you. Y'all got any more observations?
What's your question?
I want to hear this question.
Where's
now.
Oklahoma end up at the end of the year?
Either hovering around the top 15. There's 3 avenues, I think. They're like just missed the playoff, they're in the playoff, or they're so far out of it and no one even talks. Like people are talking about this Brett Venables need to be fired.
I think that
Either extremely hot or frozen tundra.
Yes.
you don't think there's any middle ground for them.
You don't see a 7-5 opportunity here? Let me read you the schedule. Temple, Houston, Tulane.
3-0.
3-0.
Tennessee.
Maybe 3.
Throw the edge of Tennessee.
In Oklahoma.
Oh, in Norman.
Oh, God, this run right here. Welcome to the SEC. Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss.
You can go 2-2 in that. And
then Maine, and then Missouri, Alabama, LSU. Oh, my God. This Oklahoma schedule, holy shit. They got LSU, Bama, Mizzou, Ole Miss, Texas, and Tennessee. They got 5 top 15 SEC football teams.
So, I mean, yeah, they
schedule.
could be 9-3, but they could also very well be 6-6.
Buddy, I don't see 9-3 on this anywhere.
You can beat Tennessee at home, and you can upset a Bama or an LSU or a Texas.
You know what?
I mean, they upset Texas last year.
For them to go 9-3, you're saying they win 2 of these games. LSU, Bama, Missouri, Ole Miss, Texas, and Tennessee.
Sure.
You know what made me feel a lot more confident about Oklahoma in that schedule?
What's up?
If you had a veteran quarterback that played really
like
well
a guy
last
like
year.
Dylan Gabriel,
he
maybe?
knocked off a top 15 team in a big rivalry game. Top 5 team. You know, if you had that on your roster, if you had a guy that was just consistently good at the position, he was proven at the position, and you had this schedule coming up, I would feel a lot more likely to say you finish as a top 25 team.
Just a side note here. I'm going to need you to load up the traditional Jimbo Fisher intro. We have a super sub that has required it for the local hour. So
what are we
go ahead and you see if you can find that.
It's like we're a jukebox now.
Just search he on the file explorer. You might find it. All right. I think it's titled Brooks He. So find that one. Let's get it loaded up for our boy Carome.
Mr.
Clark. So yeah, load that up for my boy right there. We'll get that played during the local hour. Average cost of a starter in college football. How do y'all want to play this? Do you want me to just read them to you and then we give a quick synopsis on each of them, or do you want to guess?
Are you going to do it by position?
Yeah, they're by position. So I have quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, DB.
Let me take a guess.
All right, you want to take guesses? Here we go. I already gave you the quarterback.
This is Power 4?
This is Power 4 average cost annually of a starter at the position.
Okay.
A quarterback. How much? I already told you earlier in the show. Let's test your attention here.
I want to say it's around the $900K mark.
Quarterback averages right now $500,000 to $800,000. I imagine this number to be much higher. particularly at the upper echelon of the sport.
That's what I'm thinking.
The actual people who move the needle, the anti-Will Howard deep state cost you $1.4 million this year.
Lord.
The Cam Howard sweepstakes was over $1 million. Carson Beck's making well over $1 million. Quinn Ewers probably making well over $1 million. What brings this perennial average down is probably Brock Vandegrift's NIL package up there in Kentucky. Okay. So $500,000 to $800,000, a real high quality starter like what Nebraska has now, or what they paid for, is going to cost you about $1.5 million. That is the direct quote from Matt Rule himself. All right, the running back position, Kirby. What do you think a starting running back's making right about now in Power 5 football?
You said that running backs are somewhat overvalued in this market last night. I'm going to go on a limb and say they're probably in the somewhere between 100 and 200K.
Averaging $200,000 to $300,000 a year at the running back position in Power 4 football right now. And when we give you the rest of these salaries, our average salaries, you'll come to find out that, like I had been thinking, the running back position is disproportionately valued in comparison to the NFL, right? Whereas last night, what we told you is that the average NFL starting kicker makes more than the average NFL running back. Not the average NFL starting running back, the average NFL running back on a roster. The starting kicker makes more money than that guy because it is a position that has become undervalued, or devalued rather, on the NFL ranks. I think, and I know that has directly impacted the amount of money that high school running backs are now demanding, or college running backs are now demanding, because they know their price value at the next level will ultimately decrease in relative to other positions.
Yeah, I mean, it's with the classic, get paid while you can type thing.
Get the money while you can, and while you can demand it, and while those legs are fresh. All right, the wide receiver position, Kirby. I'm going to let you know, a wide range right here on the wide receiver position.
I mean, the upper echelons probably get close to $1 million in some cases. I don't think that's the average. Give me if quarterbacks are 500 to 800,000, I'll go 400 to 700,000.
It's interesting, and I don't know how they exactly went about this reporting. I would imagine they just contacted as many collectives as they could get off the record. The range right here says $75,000 to $300,000. So it's really, really dependent upon
That's not really an average.
No, it's not. It's a very wide range right there. And I can't really explain why it is that way. I really can't. Hold on. ACC presidents and chancellors have voted to accept the antitrust lawsuit settlement. Let me see. Pete Thamel right here must have got the lowdown. Chancellors have voted to accept the antitrust settlements, including House versus NCAA. They joined the Big 12 as a second conference to accept the settlement. I'm telling you right now, before the end of the week. Okay, before the end of the week, everybody will have agreed to these settlements, and we will start to pay out all these dollar figures, and we will start to have our new world order of college football. Offensive line, what do you think they're running out here in college football right now?
That's tough because, there's 3 spots on an offensive line that are all valued. Obviously, your blindside tackle is going to be much more than your center. Yeah. So I'll go probably $60K to upwards of 500.
Yeah, $350K to $500,000 is the average salary of an offensive lineman. No luck finding it?
No, I got it.
You got it? Hell yeah. That's my boy right there. It down. That boy working. All right, so yeah, offensive line, $350,000 to $500,000. How much do you think Caden Proctor makes?
Caden Proctor's probably pushing 600.
750?
600 for sure. Yeah, you know what? Because he's negotiated twice, so he's probably pushing 800 at this
Automatic
point.
raises.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Smart man. Good agent.
Smart man. I wonder if he's caught up with his classes. Also, very weird circumstance. Being Caden Proctor at 6'5", 360 pounds, and having to go into an Iowa, lit class at 9 o'clock in the morning after you're already quote unquote transferring back to Alabama.
Oh, he was online. For sure.
You think so?
Gotta be.
I was thinking of this too, but someone like Tyler Barron, who has committed and decommitted from multiple schools, for the last 6 months, what has he been doing academically or anything?
I would imagine he's been taking classes at Tennessee.
You think?
I would think so. It's no different than the Urosic kid. Yeah. Except it's not been loud. Urosic's been finishing classes out there at Stanford, has just graduated, and will be enrolling this summer. These guys that hit the portal in May, when the portal opens, they have to, or April, they have to finish that semester's class where they're at. But Barron's interesting to me because he hit the portal in December. So you're right. He has to be taking classes right now somewhere in order to be eligible next fall. So I just don't know where he's taking those classes. But you're right. He's been a Tennessee student, you would imagine, all spring, committed to Ole Miss in December, decommitted for Ole Miss, flipped to Louisville. I guess has been spending time at Louisville this spring.
I guess.
And then is out of his Louisville deal and is now going to Miami. Crazy. Don't know what's going on, but you would imagine he's doing so for fair market value, which for defensive linemen, do you have any idea what it is?
Defensive linemen are another one of these that are probably inflated in the market just because the demand on them seems to be so high. I'll go probably like 250 to 500. Yeah,
250 to 600 right there. And you mentioned it. By need, I would imagine. This cycle, they have spent an exorbitant amount of money on defensive linemen. So much so that some defensive linemen might have hit the portal just to, mess around, find out.
Maybe
how much I'm worth.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So there's that. Linebackers. Exactly what I thought they would be, $100,000 to $300,000. I'm cutting it short right here for you, Kirby. Defensive backs. This one doesn't make sense to me because defensive backs on the NFL level are paid and drafted at the same rate as offensive tackles, at the same rate as wide receivers are nowadays. I mean, you spend a lot of capital in both the draft and your salary cap getting really, really good corners. They're only going for $120,000 to $225,000 right now.
My theory on this is that it's not as hard to be like a really solid college corner. Like you have a lot of really solid college corners. Like there's guys on every SEC roster. There's 4 or 5 or 6 deep on some places that could all start at different schools. I think it's honestly the elite of the elite corners in the NFL is so invaluable that's why they're like everyone's taking their chances on like, hey, maybe we're getting the next Jalen Ramsey or Darrelle Revis or a guy who can shut down one side of the field where it's not as prominent in college football.
And this is the average of starters, right? You said?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to go the route of like, well, maybe it's just because they have so many of them. But if it is, that is interesting though, because you're right. But maybe that's why they aren't paid that much because they are paid so well in the NFL. But that doesn't reflect in other positions on the field for the average payment for college football players. So. Really interesting.
Another super sub right here from Rudy that says expand the familia with $20 there. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is we now have 2 free subscriptions available over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. If you want to claim those, email me right now, brooks7711@gmail.com. Those will be readily available for you. What you laughing at, Gmail?
I should email you.
You should email me?
Yeah.
You ain't getting it. We'll take it right out of your check next month, bro. All right, so
I'm good.
That
wasn't funny, bro.
Yeah, it wasn't that funny.
Come on, man.
Let's see. Show some class. A change to the signing windows. We also have that. Paul Feinbaum's out here firing people, and Florida State is out of there. Which one do y'all want to talk about? We only got room for one.
I'm interested in this Florida State.
Yeah, that's the one I want to hear about.
All right, so word on the trail all spring has been that Florida State is Yowdy 5,000 out there at the ACC. They fitting to get out. I don't know how. Last time I checked, it's like $750 million to get out of their TV rights deal. I don't know if they call them the Saudi oil money in. I don't know if JP Morgan or Chase or whoever the hell is going to finance this. I don't know who or how or what is about to happen. I just know that the ACC ain't doing it for Florida State and ain't doing it for some of these guys like Florida State, Miami, and North Carolina. These are statements from Florida State's athletic director, Michael Alford. And I'll be honest, some of the weirder comments I've ever heard. If you're not a baseball fan or not a former baseball player, these comments are going to sound way out of left field, pun intended. Okay. Michael Alford joined College Sports on Sirius XM recently and was asked if there's any chance of the ACC salvaging its relationships with Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina, schools that are also looking to leave the league. Alford did not completely rule out the possibility, but it does seem unlikely. And here's the quote. I'll say this, you run out every ground ball. That's the baseball analysis for you. We're going to continue to run out every ground ball. But what do we know? What we do know is analytics, and what we do know is the revenue gap coming in the future and how it's just going to get worse and worse. So the expression, you got to run out every ground ball. This basically means like you just hit a Sunday hop to second base. It is an automatic out. There is no way in hell they butch this thing, but you still got to run it out. It is a guaranteed out, though. What he is saying is that this ACC TV contract is such a dud that they're just going to jog their ass to first base, do their due diligence, and get the hell out of that inning.
Effort through it. That's what you got to do. You just got to push on through.
Finish the drill, as Mark Richt would say.
Finish the drill.
But yeah, if you were wondering what Michael Alford and Florida State think about their chances of staying in the ACC, it's just a ground ball to second base that we got to run out right now.
RIP the Power Four.
See ya. Cool.
Big Three.
Yeah, well, Big Three. How did the Big 12 manage to be one of the remaining ones here?
I don't know, because they absorbed every Group of 5 team that was worth a shit.
They just remained big enough.
No college football playoff title, right?
None.
Only had one member school make it.
Yep.
Texas.
No. TCU.
Oklahoma.
2.
And Oklahoma.
Oklahoma 3. But nobody win.
Never.
Whereas the ACC's had 2 win. Clemson twice.
Yep.
Big Ten and the SEC have obviously had them. But for the Pac-12 to die off, kind of saw that coming. Lack of leadership, lack of TV deal, all that good stuff.
Yep.
But to see the ACC fold and crumble like this in terms of their primary member schools, their big boys, obviously efforting to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, the revenue gap in a couple of years is close to, it's going to be close to $40 million a year.
But you are right in saying it's crazy that the Big 12 was able to survive Texas and Oklahoma leaving, whereas now we're looking at the ACC, and it's if Clemson and FSU leave, like they're dead, they're done, they're just dead in the water. Where that really wasn't the conversation around the Big 12, so maybe it's better that it happened sooner rather than later for them.
I think the Big 12 also benefited of getting Cincinnati and UCF.
I was about to say the time in which it happened for the Big 12, there were other schools still worrying about conference alignment that they could go nab, right? You could get Colorado, you could get Arizona, you could get Arizona State, you could go get UCF. All of these, UCF's a very big school.
Yeah.
That's a keynote addition, even though, they're a mid-major football program.
And it's an interesting brand as well. Like Cincinnati was relatively fresh off a playoff appearance when they went and picked them up. So it's like, there's really not a group of 5 or a group of 5 team out there that's kind of sexy enough for the ACC to go grab right now and still make it an interesting conference after you lose FSU and Clemson.
All right, we got a local hour coming up, and it's a loaded one. We'll see you in about 45 seconds.
You can do anything you want. I ain't got no problem with it. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage. A joke. Clown acts. Pisses me off. No. Come find me. No. No. Come find me. Listen to the words. Come find me. Garbage. A joke. Clown acts. Pisses me off.
I ain't a hard guy to find. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage. A joke. Clown acts. Pisses me off. So, just to tell you, we've come a little bit of a ways, right?
They're giving Gramco free sponsors.
Shout out to Gramco. The Gramco sponsorship, no glasses, sitting in a garage, probably sweating my ass off. Or I saw myself in a hoodie there.
Yeah, you had a hoodie.
Yeah, probably was dead middle of the winter. Probably had a space heater right in my crotch right there to keep me from freezing in the middle of air. So yeah, come a little ways since the he intro right there.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. Garbage. A joke. Clown act. Pisses me off. Love it right there. Shout out to Jimbo. Appreciate you working out at Planet Fitness, giving us content despite the fact that you've been shit canned for the last 7 months. All right. Rashada's lawsuit obviously going on. Now, I put this at the top of the local hour, obviously because it's the biggest story, but I've seen some not kickback, but I've seen some comments on social media that I don't necessarily understand. And so here's the question. Is this Jaden Rashada story and is this Jaden Rashada lawsuit and topic, is this a distraction? And how much of a distraction will this ultimately be? I truly believe at any other school, and I'm not any other school, but just at another school, okay, not Georgia, at another school, this might be a thing, right? This might be something that's constantly talked about, or this might be something that gets brought back into the news when this individual goes and talks to the media again. But guess what, guys? Jaden Rashada enrolled at the University of Georgia. He signed or committed to the University of Georgia. That joker ain't getting in front of a microphone and a camera until maybe April of 2025. Like, we ain't going to see this dude. He's going to be off in a hole, grinding, and never to be heard of or seen of ever again until we get practice availability and we get to take pictures of him in his new practice jersey this fall. That's the next time we're going to see Jaden Rashada. So this ain't going to be something that people have to answer for in front of the media availability. Hell, we don't even get Kirby until SEC Media Days. Okay, so 2 months from now, is he being asked about this? Yeah, probably. Somebody in the media pool in Dallas is going to ask him about this. He'll brush it off, say he can't talk about an ongoing lawsuit or ongoing whatever, and then he'll move on. He'll have his little talking point, and that'll be it. This will be a moot point. Okay, in the NFL, maybe this is a big distraction. Maybe that there's a big herd of media reporters around Jaden Rashada's locker every day. But that ain't the case. That's not what's happening right now. Again, this guy won't talk to the media until 2025. This isn't like, for example, Cam Newton's investigation. Mid-season, Auburn's like on a national championship run. They can't afford to lose a single game because it's BCS, right? We are grinding it out trying to get to a national title game. And then all of a sudden, Dan Mullen dry snitches. And now all of a sudden, the NCAA is wondering where, Hubert Newton's money came from. All right, that's not the situation. It's not a situation at all. I think this is a very, very moot point moving forward. At best, this is a backup quarterback that's got a lawsuit going on off the field. In reality, this is a third stringer who ain't even on campus yet. It's a non-issue. It's a non-talking point of a football player who, probably won't even have to go into court for this. Probably something his lawyer's handling at all times for him.
That's what I was about to say is like he's probably not even the one that's having to deal with all the details of this or really know anything. Like he's probably just the guy that they're relaying information to, and it's like, hey, this is what's going on, this is the next date, this is what's happening next, this is what we're working on, blah blah blah. Like he's probably just sitting there like, okay, like we got it in the process. I just sit here and continue to do what I do until this is resolved.
The way the public reacted to this made me think that most people just said or believe that Jaden Rashada woke up today and was like, you know what? I'm going to sue Billy Napier.
Yeah.
I'm assuming because he did me wrong after I've gotten to Georgia now. You know what? I'm a Georgia Bulldog. I'm going to go ahead and go after their head coach of the Florida Gators. That's not what happened. Like this has been in the works since he left Florida. So I think that's probably where people are kind of like, oh, this is a distraction now. But it's been ongoing. Like Kirby Smart knew this was probably going on when he agreed to have him come on the team. So
he did. There was quotes in the article that in the reporting of this today that said basically Kirby Smart gave his blessing, which that wasn't the timeline of events. This is how this worked. They filed this lawsuit or began to collect information for this lawsuit in December of 2023. They didn't start recruiting Rashada until 2 months ago, a month ago, whenever he hit the portal, whenever it was, right? So they start that then. I guarantee you this was brought up during the recruitment process of Rashada. Hey, by the way, within the next 3 months, we're filing this suit and we're going to sue Billy Napier, his biggest booster, and his director of scouting or director of player relations, whatever old buddy's title was that they've already shit canned. We're going after this. We got to get our money back because we never got the money that was promised to us. And we believe they did some co-conspiracy to get us out of our money. I think that was one of the best parts of this story from a Georgia's fan perspective. If you're listening to this as a Georgia fan, your football coach basically was like,
hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. Let's go. Come on. I want this announced as you're a dog. That's what I want. I want this announced. I want you to file these papers 24 hours after you commit some bitch. Let's get after it.
You think Kirby's that petty?
No, but I thought Baxter Street Boys tweeted it out perfectly today. It's got to feel great that your head football coach hates your rivals as much as you do. You know what I mean? In his gut, in his heart of hearts, he hates them. And you know, with Florida being down this bad and Tech being Tech and Bama now without Saban, my question to you guys is, who is Georgia's biggest rival?
Tennessee.
I still think for the time being it's Bama, because until you show that like you've completely surpassed that program, you're on top of it.
You think that was a crimson and white fear and not a Nick Saban fear?
I mean, I don't think it was a crimson and white fear, but I mean, you go to Tuscaloosa this year and you lose to them, it's going to immediately, it's not a Nick Saban thing, it's Bama, and you can go right back to square one. So I mean, right now, I think as it stands, Bama is still your biggest rival.
I just don't view that matchup as a rival almost. Like even when Saban was the head coach, it was really just the Kirby Smart Nick Saban rivalry. That's kind of how people labeled it and painted it. Whereas like it never really felt like it was Georgia hating Alabama or Alabama hating Georgia or any of that. Whereas like when I think of a rivalry, it's like, there's hatred both ways. And so that's why I think it's Tennessee, not only because they're one of the more competitive teams of a team that Georgia plays every single year. They're playing them this year. I just think that's why I said Tennessee.
I know who Kirby hates the most. And based off of what his players tell us all the time. Georgia Tech. He despises Georgia Tech.
He played in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played when that was actually a real
peak
rivalry.
Tech.
Yeah, I guess. That peak Tech.
They won a natty. I mean,
co-natty.
Still won it.
Deion's Buffaloes claimed that natty too. All right. Even though they got a 5th down. You remember that? I think it was against Nebraska in 1990.
Yeah.
They got a 5th down.
Mm-hmm.
College football, man. Crazy.
Conspiracy.
This whole idea that Kirby knew about this and not signed off on it, but was okay with taking this player, knowing that this was on the horizon, basically tells you as a fan, if your coach, who is always main thing, no distractions, play football, all that, shut up, let's line it up, go after, no more bitching, moaning, complaining. Of all the people to want to avoid distractions, he's one of them. Okay, so he must not have thought this was going to be an issue, and I don't think it's going to be an issue.
No, I don't think so either.
Talking about a 3rd-string quarterback. Like, what are we doing? This is not a huge story, even though it's a huge story.
But I don't think
it is. If you're in Gainesville, it's a huge story. Your head coach being sued.
It's huge for Florida. I don't think it's huge for Jaden Rashada or anyone involved in his camp.
Yeah, not on this side of the lawsuit. On the other side of the lawsuit, you're like, what the hell?
Absolutely.
I mean, the only thing that would make it huge is if Billy Napier flips this and makes a defamation thing, but there's no way that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I think they try to get this thing thrown out as fast as possible, wipe their hands with it, and never bring it up ever again. All right, so that is that. Bullard, Javon Bullard, already getting some praise up there with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to tell you right now, go ahead and get Epic Pin and that black screen ready. We're going there first. You do not play star and safety at the University of Georgia without being an extremely smart football player. Okay, I want to read you some quotes from, this is the defensive coordinator up with Green Bay. Quote, this is about Javon Bullard. He's a sharp guy. His ability to learn and process in those 2 days of rookie minicamp was extremely impressive. You get a guy who can play that fast and can take what he learned in the meeting room and bring it out to the field. He's got a chance. He was asked what he liked about Bullard. He said, just loved his tape, loved the way that he played. He's a physical guy. He can run, he can cover, he can play deep, he can play in the slot, he can blitz. He's bigger when you see him. He's just got a phenomenal skill set. He can do a lot of different things. He's smart, can pick it up quickly, very instinctive. And when he gets to the point of contact, he gets there with a chip on his shoulder. Man, he just described Javon Bullard. And what he also described is the exact definition of what it requires to play the star position. I have always said it is the most difficult position on the defensive side of the football to play. It is Georgia's quarterback, if you will, in the sense that Georgia and any quarterback of any system has to be very aware of what the other 10 players on the field are doing, as does the star on the other side of the ball. And I'm about to explain why. Also, if you heard those quotes from Green Bay's defensive coordinator, the number one thing I heard was recall. Okay, his ability to relay information, his ability to remember information, his ability to take teaching lessons and apply them to the field. I, boys, believe that recall is a common denominator and a common trait in all successful people across all fields. I think if you have the ability to remember the things that you saw or remember the experiences that you had and learn upon those, you're going to be successful. I think Sean McVay and LeBron James are the two people who are most known for this. They get the most notoriety for this. All the clips of them remembering crazy shit. Every great athlete in the history of great athletes, 9 times out of 10 has this.
Tiger Woods can do it for any round of golf he's ever played. He can tell you every shot.
Yeah, it's a no surprise, okay? All these guys that are elite, they have these recall systems. By the way, Carson Beck has one of these recall systems. I'm not saying he's going to be one of the greatest of all time. I'm just telling you, he knows what he sees, and he can tell you what he saw as soon as he comes off the field. So, why is it important to be really, really smart at the star position? So, what we're going to do today, I'm just going to draw the nickel shell with a 3x1 and kind of explain everything as I go, okay? We're going to put the star here in the slot. We're going to put the strong safety safety over him. We're going to put the free safety over here. We're going to put the other corner right back here on the back side. Now, offensively, we're going to put our X, we're going to put our slot, and we're going to put our H over here on the trip side. We're going to put actually the X back here. We're going to get rid of this X. We're going to make him a Z. By following me here right quick? Okay, we got the Z on the back side here. Now, here's our star. This is the guy we're talking about. Now, if we're just playing standard man covers, let's say we're just, or actually, let's say we're playing zone covers. So on this particular play, this player has to be responsible for wherever his zone is, whether they're running some standard, quarters over here or whatever covers they're running. He's got to be responsible for his coverage. I know you're making weird faces over there. I'm just drawing one up. Okay. So he's got to be responsible for all of his zone coverage drops. Well, let's say we want to get into a, cover two or, a cover one man situation. Let's say we want to bump you out over here, roll the safety down, roll the free safety over the top. And now we're going to put you in man-to-man bump and run coverages with that slot receiver. So now we were playing zone. Now we got to be able to play bump and run off man coverage against this slot receiver. All right. So let's go back to our original plan. Let's say we're staying in that too high shell. Okay. And now all of a sudden they jet the H. So now they're going to jet the H. And what do we got to do, boys? Now we got to roll, right? So now what was a star becomes a free safety. So now this guy who was playing nickel defense, because we're changing on the fly, now he's going to roll back and play middle of the field. Or he's going to have to roll back and play a half of the field by himself as a deep safety. Or maybe we say, all right, screw that. We're just going to key. We're not going to roll, or we're just going to rock and roll with the safeties. We're going to go one high now instead of two. Okay, we're just going to rock and roll the safeties, and you're going to add in. So now, instead of being a zone defender or a bump and run man defender or having to play free safety, now I'm responsible for C gap off the edge. I got to turn and spill everything back in. So now I went from being on one play, maybe a true nickel man-to-man cover corner, to now I'm a safety, to now I'm basically an extension of the run game. I'm an outside linebacker now playing the edge of the defense. So we all understand now that this one guy, this guy's got a tremendous amount of responsibilities. We didn't even talk about blitz packaging. We didn't talk about standard run fits from depth. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. We just talked about the basics, okay, of that one guy's position in terms of all of the different responsibilities he may be called upon to do in one given football play. That's why that guy has to be the smartest and honestly sometimes the best football player on Georgia's defense, as he was last year, right? Tyke Smith was the most impactful statistical football player they had a year ago, which brings me to my question, boys. Is this the biggest question mark we've had at the star position at the University of Georgia in quite some time?
Yeah. Since 2021, I think.
Which was the
2021, you rolled out Latavius Brini for a while, gave Dan Jackson some run, and then William Poole, you kind of rotated him in throughout. So, I mean, the entire year that felt like that star position was kind of the question mark. Now, luckily, you had a first-round safety and Christopher Smith, who was an all-SEC guy the next year, to kind of make up for that. But I think that was kind of the year where you could say that was their last big question mark. Ever since then, it's been elite after elite after elite.
Yeah, I went Boyd and Tyke.
I feel like that year, though, you had a little bit more clarity of what your answers were, and you had a bit more clarity of I just feel like you had a lot more scenarios that you could kind of play yourself
Certainly
out
had
with.
more options.
Yeah.
Playable options.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Is like you have playable options, whereas this year it's we don't know yet, or like at least the fans and the outsiders' perspectives, like you don't really know if you have that many playable options, and it's Dalen Everett might play it, but we don't really know what that looks like. And then is Jonel Aguero, is he going to be great this season? Like those are really the only two questions you can ask right now.
What I certainly know is that Dominic Lovett ate during the spring game, and it was mostly off the star position. It's mostly off Jonel Aguero.
But I also think that was kind of like, hey, we're throwing you to the fire.
Oh, we're gonna see if you can swim today. No floaties. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's kind of why you saw so much success going against that position. Like, you have to assume Malachi Starks has also been cross-trained at that position. So if things get dire, since he was a freshman,
yeah, exactly.
That was one of the bigger lies Kirby told.
We don't cross-train freshmen.
We don't cross-train freshmen. It's like, buddy.
So maybe
the
like
special ones you do.
I mean, hell, even like if KJ Bolden turns out to be this type of guy, like I feel like there's going to be an answer there. We just don't know what it is right now. And this is one of the first times where we're going into the season.
It could even be Dan Jackson. Like, you never. Ja'Cory Thomas is an option there as well.
Well, I was going to say maybe KJ Bolden is the answer to this. Not playing star, but if you find out he can be an elite safety, then you could feel a lot more comfortable saying, okay, Malachi, we're going to make you put you in the best player position and impact the defense.
You think Minkah Fitzpatrick was an impactful college football player? Ooh. Let Malachi Starks play some star for 14 games. Baby. See what happens. Mess around, find out. I made a joke that's just what they should do. They should just be to put KJ back there, put another safety back there, put Malachi Starks at star, put Dalen Everett at corner, and insert other corner at the other corner, and just be a two-man team. And just say, look, we are playing man coverage today. There's 2 safeties over the top. We're going to stop every run you throw at us with 6 dudes in the box. Good luck. How y'all like my new defense? That's the kind of shit I would pull. But I'm not a college football coach. But we would be stressing the hell out of teams because there is no answer for good man coverage. There's none. You can't trick. You can't do nothing. You have to throw perfect balls all day to beat great man coverage.
The only thing you can do is get like really, really good mesh routes in there.
Yep, you can rub all day. You can try to rub, but if there's great communication from the other side and they know, hey, the game plan from them today is mesh, rub, and all these stick routes. Well, we'll pass those off. We'll figure that out eventually, or we'll just randomly throw a zone coverage at you in the middle of the drive, and your ass gonna throw a pick no matter what. So yeah, I think ideally every defensive coordinator in America would be a cover one man pressure team. If they could do it, they would send one more than you have every time. They would put one safety in the middle of the field, and they would play man coverage because there's no answer for it offensively. So that's what happens when you have better football players than the other team. And I think a lot of the time this year, Georgia's going to be exactly that. 90%. They're going to be so much better, talent-wise across the board.
Easily 90% of the time.
I would say 9 out of 12 regular season games on paper, they're going to be 20 points better than the opponent.
I would agree with that.
I think Georgia's going to be in a very weird predicament this year where they play like 3/4 of their schedule beat the ever-loving shit out of, and then there's 3 or 4 teams on their schedule that make them play 4-quarter football games. And I don't know how it would be like a boxer fighting just someone absolutely trash, and then the next week they fight a real contender, and then the next 2 weeks they fight some trash, and then they get a real contender. That would be really hard for me to show up every single day ready to fight the real contender.
The good news for that, though, is like even though we think that Georgia's going to beat the ever-loving crap out of Clemson week 1, like you're going to show up for that game. You're going to treat that as a big game because it's business. It's week 1. So you get that one, and then a few weeks later you get Alabama on the schedule. Then a couple weeks later you get Texas. Then a couple weeks later you get Ole Miss. Like it's sporadic throughout the schedule where I would be worried if it was, I would almost be more worried if it was they're all 3 kind of in the same area. And then you go from, you play cupcake schedule, middle of the season, you got to really turn it up. And then you turn it back down to the end of the season. And then you got to go play postseason. I think because it's sporadic, that almost helps them a little bit.
Chat asking, wasn't Darius Smith getting reps at Star last spring? Nick, what you saw was base personnel with him playing Sam. Okay. And I know that can be a little bit confusing. And honestly, when he was out there, he was probably listed as the star even in their defensive system, but it's him playing the star out of base, out of 3-4 personnel, right? Meaning there's 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers on the field, meaning the Jack was on the field and the Sam was on the field, and they're only playing 4 defensive backs behind that, playing a lot of zone coverage. Georgia doesn't standard do that anymore. They don't typically do that. They used to do that in 2017, and I think in 2018, maybe whenever Lorenzo Carter's last year he was there. That was the last year they kind of ran standard base personnel, just lining up playing 3-4 every single down. They almost never play 3-4 nowadays unless a team's in 12 personnel, meaning they have 2 tight ends on the field. Once the opponent brings 2 tight ends onto the field, Georgia matches with 2 outside linebackers. But if the opponent's in 11, they stay in nickel. Super nerdy football conversation there.
I like it.
Not nerdy. A game of more likely. You want to play?
Oh, I love more likely games.
I got 5 more likely situations.
Bring it.
Let's hear them.
Here we go. More likely. Georgia loses 2 road games this year, or Georgia loses a singular home game.
Sorry, repeat that.
More likely to happen. Georgia loses 2 road games this season, or Georgia loses a home game. Georgia hasn't lost a home game in 25 home games dating back to the day I got married, 2019, South Carolina.
I'm gonna say
it's got to be the road games.
I'm gonna say road games.
You think they're more likely to lose 2 out of 3 against Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas than they are to lose a singular home game?
Absolutely.
I mean, who's the toughest home challenge at Tennessee?
Tennessee.
Other than that, it's like
and Kentucky's on the road.
Kentucky's on the road.
Kentucky.
I'm pulling up the schedule right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's as easy as I'm making it, but yeah, I would say the 2 road losses.
Auburn.
Georgia dominates them at home.
That's Auburn, Tennessee, Tech. That's it. That's the 3 games where you're like, hey, look out.
Now that 2025 home slate
and Mississippi State.
There's going to be some people that lose their house payments buying tickets for the 2025 season.
Or there's going to be some people buying some second houses selling their home game tickets.
You ain't lying on that one. More likely, Carson Beck wins a Heisman or Malachi Starks wins the Jim Thorpe Award.
Carson Beck wins a Heisman.
You think so?
You really think so?
You think Carson Beck's got a higher chance of winning the Heisman than Malachi Starks being the best safety in college football?
He's competing with Caleb Downs.
That's it.
Carson Beck is competing with everybody.
I think for this reason that we've talked about, Caleb Downs is going to be utilized in such a way that's going to be more catered to making him a big name in college football.
But if he's in the running for the Heisman, you would imagine they give the Thorpe to somebody else.
That seems like that always happens with these awards. Like you can't, I don't know.
Except for the Doak Walker.
Yeah.
You win the Doak Walker, you're winning the Heisman.
Pretty much, yeah. Unless there's some ungodly running back.
I think it's Malachi.
I'll still go Carson Beck. Just because I think that if Carson Beck does what he does last year and has 2 more regular season or has 2 more games in his season, now granted the regular season doesn't matter afterwards, but like why can't he win the Heisman this year? So it's going to take like a monumental, unexpected, holy shit, where did this guy come from season?
I think if he went for 400 and beat Alabama last year, he would have gotten some first place votes for the Heisman.
For sure.
Even with what Jaden Daniels did.
For sure.
So yeah, you're right. I think if it's and it's one of those years, and we say this not knowing. We didn't know Jaden Daniels was going to go for damn near 5,500 total yards last year going into the season. We knew he was going to be good, but we didn't think that good. But if you just look at the landscape of college football this year, you're like, good teams, but where's the superstar?
Exactly.
I mean, Quinn Ewers is like the second biggest superstar in the sport right now, and Quinn Ewers is not a very outgoing, demonstrative personality. This is a guy whose most noteworthy thing is a haircut and a rededication of his faith.
And Arch Manning is his backup.
And
he's on the cover.
But he's on the cover because he's Texas' starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and he's good. He's good. Let's not get it wrong. He's good. But yeah, I tend to agree with you that Malachi Starks has a better chance of winning the Thorpe Award than Carson does the Heisman. So there you go. More likely, Xavier Truss starts and finishes every game, or Monroe Freeling wins that job.
Every game.
And I want to let the audience know that Kirby Smart said, not referencing this specific position battle, but did say he has never coached a year at the University of Georgia where a young guy didn't beat an old guy out for his job. He's never gone through a season where a young guy didn't beat the old guy out.
So Monroe Freeling just has to win the job at some point. He doesn't.
Yeah, whatever. Xavier Truss, breaks a toe. Xavier Truss out for one game. Xavier Truss out for the season. Whatever. What is more likely? Xavier Truss starts all 15, 16, 17 of these jokers, or Monroe Freeling hops in at some point this year and takes the mantle.
I'm going to say Monroe Freeling.
Monroe Freeling.
I don't know, man. Xavier Truss been super dependable.
I mean,
rolled an ankle one time.
He has, but the odds of starting 15, 16 games as opposed to picking one guy to start once. I mean, injuries, things like that can happen.
That's what I was about to say. Is you could take the cop-out answer and just say, like, well, what happens if one of the guards has to miss a game? You're going to plug Xavier Truss in over there, and then you're going to let Monroe Freeling start at right tackle.
Yeah, I also feel like Truss is your first option if anyone goes down.
You know what offensive lineman I got asked more questions about from other coaching staffs this offseason? Jamal Merriweather. Everybody was like, hey, is that Merriweather guy happy? I'm like, Coach, no comment. I'm not saying a word. I don't want to get tied up in none of this. Matter of fact, you shouldn't have even asked me that question, you son of a bitch. Yeah, because dude, Jamal Merriweather is a guy. Like, is going to play really, really well when he gets on the field, but he's a 2 right now. And with no signs of Ernest Green, barring some type of injury, giving up the 1.
There's some people that have fallen in love with Ernest Green this offseason.
Yeah, NFL media doing it. I love Ernest Green too, and I love Ernest Green's dad because I'm pretty sure he's probably watching right now. But there's very little precedence for 6'3" 1/4", 33-inch arm, first-round tackles.
I think it's because
give me Isaiah Wynn. I dare you. That was the only one.
I think it has to do with this. There's like a stat, I think, with Ernest that he only allowed like 3 QB pressures and 0 sacks this season. So I think that's definitely one of the bigger reasons, which again,
played like a first rounder, but playing like a first rounder is literally half of the evaluation that makes you a first rounder. The other half is projectability and ceiling, and is he God's gift to tackle play? Which, if you were to line up last year, if Ernest Green and Amarius Mims were both in the draft, $100,000 said Amarius Mims is going to be drafted first, despite the fact that Ernest tape looks just as good as statistical production and profile looks just as good as the other guy. The other guy's 6'8". The other guy's got 87-inch arms. The other guy ran 5 flat. These are the reasons why first-round tackles are drafted, not just based off tape. Absolutely. Except for the New England Patriots, who always did that stuff. And their draft record doesn't look great.
Well, they don't do it anymore.
They don't do it anymore.
No.
But they did for a long time. Oh, we got a 3-year starter out of the SEC in Isaiah Wynn? I don't care if he's only 6'2". What? You sure? This is the NFL, bud. This is a not-for-long league that's based off traits. So we'll see. I don't think there's any way I would allow an Ernest Green to get out of the second round. Yeah. I just think there are going to be some ceiling, questions, limitations, I should say. More likely, Georgia has a 1,000-yard receiver, or Georgia has 2 750-yard backs.
They're not going to run the ball as much as they usually do. But I did put out an article today as to why they won't have a 1,000-yard receiver.
Too many bodies? Is that what the answer was?
Yeah, too many mouths to feed, essentially.
I definitely read it.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to go running backs.
I think
that there's... I think because of that, and I think that there is just a world maybe where you kind of get to a point in the season where even when Branson comes back, or let's say just anything happens where you kind of just continue to rely on 2 guys. Well, they have kind of went away from that, just having their 2 mainstays in the lineup, and they kind of just feed those 2 guys. I still think that does somewhat exist, and I think that's more likely to happen for Georgia than for a 1,000-yard receiver to happen this year.
Give me backs all the way.
Yeah.
Dejon Edwards ran for 881. Kendall Milton ran for 790 last year.
Oh, it's easy money.
Neither of those guys.
I didn't even know that.
Neither of those guys started the entire season. So yeah, I'll go backs all the way.
That's on me. That's on me. I shouldn't have had it that low. More likely, last one we got here. Georgia goes undefeated, or Georgia wins the Joe Moore Award.
Shit.
Georgia goes undefeated.
They hate those guys, man.
At this point, I
want to know who votes on it. Because apparently it's just media members who used to play offensive line. Yo, can I vote on this thing, please? I mean, good Lord, do you have to be like Cole Kubelik's level of former washed-up offensive lineman to be able to vote on this?
Gosh, damn.
I mean, what else? How else would you describe Cole Kubelik and I?
So now we know what all the retired Big Ten offensive linemen are doing. They're voting for the Joe Moore Award.
I guess.
I don't know.
I'll go Joe Moore Award because, I mean, it took a while for a team to go 15-0 in the new playoff format. I remember when Clemson did it in 2018.
Oh, so you mean undefeated all the way through?
Yeah, we'll go regular season.
Okay, well then, yeah. I still stand on my answer.
Then I'll go regular season.
Standing on business.
I'll go regular season. I think that, I think Georgia's got a really good chance to run the table again this year.
We got any more? You got any more likely?
I didn't think of any.
Had the Wi-Fi stay on, maybe.
Let's see here. More likely, Georgia has the same 5 guys start at all 5 offensive line positions, or Georgia has the same defensive back core the whole year.
Offensive line. That defensive back room is going to flip-flop, I feel like, a lot.
I'm going to go offensive line.
We pop a lot of injuries on that offensive line.
It's true. But I feel like it's just it's a guarantee that it's going to happen at defensive back.
Okay, let's do it this way. More likely, more people play meaningful snaps on the offensive line or the defensive back room.
Offensive line.
I'll go offensive line because there's more.
I'm going to go DBs.
There's more players.
There was more spots. But there's 5 for 5. 5 offensive linemen, 5 defensive backs. But the rotation at the defensive back group will be...
When we say meaningful snaps, are we considering
like 2-score games, you know...
So you're not getting...
2-score games, real time.
Starting quarterback is in the game.
Then I'll go DBs then.
I will too.
Because I think you're going to rotate a lot of Jake Pope at some point. You're going to see a lot of KJ Bolden. You're going to see a lot of
Daniel Harris.
Corners. You're going to see
a lot of
Ellis
Ja'Cory
Robinson,
Thomas, a lot of Dan Jackson.
There's a lot of DBs that are going to get some run at some point in the year.
Let's do it right here. You got Dalen Everett, Daniel Harris, Julian Humphrey. I think Ellis Robinson gets meaningful burn at some point this year, all at corner. Then you got Jonel Aguero, Ja'Cory Thomas, probably getting meaningful burn at nickel. Maybe even Kyron Jones.
Possible.
Maybe even Kyron Jones getting some rep right there at star. Jake Pope, KJ Bolden, Malachi Starks, Dan Jackson.
David Daniel.
We'll see availability.
Okay.
That's 11. That's 11 guys that we could all see playing. I only see about 7 or 8 offensive linemen.
Yeah, you don't rotate the
backs.
offensive.
I changed my answer.
Yeah.
No longer standing on business.
I changed the defensive backs, yeah.
All right, we haven't done player of the day in a while, and we're going to do 3 players of the day today.
Ooh.
Here's how we're going to do this. Georgia has 1 running back committed already in the 2025 class. That's Bo Walker out of Cedar Grove, even though I don't think he's at Cedar Grove anymore. I know he's not at Cedar Grove anymore. I know where he's at, but he gave me the shh emoji, so shh. We're going to keep that one shh. But anyways, we're going to take a look at that. We're also going to watch Usmani Kromah, the running back out of Lee County, and we're going to watch Bo Jackson, the running back out of Ohio.
Yes.
That's where Bo's from. Running back out of Ohio. What order do we want to watch this?
I have it set up in Bo Walker, Bo Jackson, and Usmani.
I like that. All right. Because we're going to watch the commit first. We're going to watch a really highly touted running back second. And then we're going to watch who Josh Crawford calls his number 1 priority in the class last. So we will do that. Let's go. Bo Walker right here. Oh, got a state title clip off rip. So let's take a look at this. I think this is a tud right here. 50-yard tud off tackle. Okay. Our ability, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't get caught.
The long speed was impressive, but his ability to stick his foot in the ground and get north right here. Okay. He's going to go from this point to this point, about 8 yards, and he's going to reach max speed right as he gets through this crease of the defense. Look at this. Woo, right there.
If the damn mic didn't overrun it.
Yeah. That's Savannah Christian right there. So 2 number 1 overall players on that defensive line that he just ran against right there. All right. Oh, now we're going to see him catch the ball out of the backfield off a little sprint option.
Oh, man.
Yeah, dude. The dead leg, man. It's like watching Dejan in high school.
Looks like Jahmyr Gibbs.
With real top end speed. He's not that fast. Okay, he's a 4.62 runner.
Okay.
Jahmyr in high school was 4.45, obviously on tape. This is much more of a compact frame, really, really explosive inside the box, like you're seeing right here. And then the long speed is good enough. That's Creekside High School he's running against right there. You don't take off on Creekside High School if you got go-go juice. Okay, I think that's Creekside. It might be Central DeKalb. I guess we had to see what 5-0 was doing out there. Ooh, stiff arm. And now we get some quick acceleration right there. That's angle. Yeah. Is he outran the angle?
Ooh,
oh my God.
Man.
Yeah, he's got juice,
he's
guys.
Got speed, man.
And I love at the end here, as he's falling out of bounds, he switches the ball to the inside hand right
to extend
there and gets it over the pylon. I like that. That's some good situational awareness. Kirby probably won't like that. Switching hands. This is them playing against Carver of Atlanta. So speed on this field as well. Juice. Right through an arm tackle.
Good angle by the safety.
Yeah, really good angle by the safety just to get him at the pylon. Really well-rounded back at about 5. I'd say he's 5'10", 205. Will you look him up for me and see what he's listed at? I'm going to say 5'10", 205.
So he's going to be your gasher guy, it looks like.
Kirby, honestly, I think he's just well-rounded. I don't think we're going to style him into one specific role. I think he's got the ability to play inside and outside the tackles.
Just based on this tape, I mean, now obviously,
you got that look on your face like I did the thing.
I don't even want to say it.
What is
5'8", 205.
He's 5'8", 205.
5'8" and a half, actually.
5'8", 205.
All right, how do we know that he doesn't study these beforehand and just like, oh, he
what
looks
if it's
like...
just you've seen the player profile so many times?
Y'all been around me for how long?
You're right.
Y'all see me do this to strangers.
All right, I'm going to pick next week. I'm going to pick a guy not tell you about him, put him on the screen, tell you about, like, give you his name, let you watch his tape, and then you guess the weight.
The really funny one is when I do it to kids in front of them.
Yeah, that's
really funny. They look at me like I'm a sorcerer. Duke Johnson looked at me like, what is your deal? I'm like, don't worry about it, dude. I got good heights and weights on dudes. Can't do it with women.
You shouldn't.
Probably should.
Shouldn't.
Probably safe bet there.
God was saving you there.
What do you weigh, like one?
What are you about? 165, 167? What do we wake up
Lord, who are
today?
you talking to?
Oh my gosh.
Good Lord.
Have we seen enough, boys?
No, I want to see more.
You want to see more? We're checking boxes. I like the tape. This is a consensus 3-star.
Yeah.
Really?
Consensus 3-star. On 3 got him 3-star. 24/7 3-star.
I take that back. He's a composite 4-star.
Composite 4-star.
All right.
Okay. But was composite 3-star prior to commitment. I guarantee that.
He got the bump.
Yeah, got the bump. Got to get the bump. Why wouldn't you give him the bump? Oh my God.
Oh no.
Bro, you putting guys on the floor?
Bro, he slid on his ass.
You putting
Wind it
guys
back.
on the floor?
He slid on his ass.
You? That's brutal,
That's
my boy.
Disgusting.
All right, elite dead leg, elite, short area quickness, top end speed, a little bit suspect. I'm not gonna say bad. It's just not. You're a 10-3 guy in the 100, right? We're gonna know that if we see that on tape. 10-3 guys. Okay, here we go. We got Bo Jackson right here. A little bit of a taller, thicker back. I'm gonna say based off tape right now, I'm looking at a back that's 6'1", 207. Will you look up Mr. Jackson for me?
I already got him pulled up. 6 foot 205.
Okay, not bad. Not a bad guessing range right there. All right. Runs a little bit upright for me based off that first clip and based off these clips right here. A little bit upright. Okay. Which is, the dreads right here, upright running style.
James Cook.
James Cook is kind of who I'm thinking right now. Oh, and then we get a clip of him catching the ball out of the backfield. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, that is James Cookie right there.
Just glides.
Just gliding.
That's speed,
a smooth runner. Will you find some track times on Mr. Bo Jackson right here for me? I would assume he's running track out there at Ohio. This looks like a 10-8 guy to me if I've seen one. You might not be able to find it.
Oh, no, I think I got it.
25-yard touchdown run here. Good dead leg there. 2 of them in the hole. And then gets vertical.
That's a Stan's camera.
Yeah. Mom was filming that one with the iPhone. Let's see if he's got natural hands, boys. Does he let this get in on his body? Nope.
Nah.
Caught it out in front of his framework.
God, he's so fast.
Yeah, dude, he's got the go-go's. You got anything for me?
Looking.
Almost looks like North Cobb right here, but it's not. Ugh, good contact balance running through the arm tackles. Yeah, you get this guy over the field, he's gone. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely gone.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find any.
I want to see some shimmy here, though, don't you?
Yeah.
I want to see some shimmy.
I mean, he doesn't need to.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't. He gave a little hard cut right there in the hole, but nah, he got top end galore. Oh, this is a screen recording on the cell phone. Me likey on the wheel. We're gonna over the shoulder basket catch. Oh my
Beautiful.
God. Yeah, we checking all of them except for I want to see some. Yeah, it's more straight line speed there. But nah, he bounced out.
I mean, I don't doubt that he can do it. It's just one of those instances where you probably don't have
to in high school. I mean, look at that hole. Outran the angle easily. Easily outran the angle. All right, he's got the most top end speed right now. We all agree?
Agreed.
All right, that's the fastest and most quote-unquote explosive back that we're going to watch. This guy right here, Usmani, this is a bell cow. This is a back that, hey, he's going to get best when you give him carries 21 through 25. 21 through 25, ain't nobody on the field going to want to tackle that dude. Okay? This is at least that's been his career arc so far through high school. And when you talk about bow-legged athletes, this is the most bow-legged athlete in the history of athletes that I've ever evaluated. Okay? This dude, and I've talked to him about this. This dude's, now they're inward there, but they're rarely ever inward. Okay, it's why his contact balance is so strong. All right, and I don't want to get too nerdy, but that's what you guys tune in for here. Okay, Kirby, when we are doing a perfect squat, what's the first movement? What have they taught you this? Huh?
Arch your back.
Arch your back, but knees out, right? Knees out and butt back.
Yeah.
Okay, that knees out stance, that's when we are most powerful. Okay, if our knees go in, we are weak. All right, but if our knees stay out, that's when we're our most powerful. That's when we produce the most weight and the most energy heading northwards. So now, imagine if I were always bow-legged. Imagine if my knees were always outside of my toes. Okay, what is that going to allow? Well, it means as a running back, when I get hit and I land on one leg, guess what? I'm outside my knee box all the time. I'm never inward. I'm always powerful. So if I'm on one leg and I got somebody hanging on me, I'm in a powerful, non-compromised position at all times. It's no different than my Nigerian scouting theory. Okay, I think all Nigerian prospects need to be evaluated at a higher rate, because they're going to grow at a much higher rate than anybody else that I've evaluated. I feel the same thing about bow-legged athletes. Bow-legged athletes will always have a plus in not only situational awareness, but contact balance and just general explosive traits. Okay, the most famous bow-legged athletes: LeBron James, Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Caleb Downs.
Kenny the Jet Smith.
Kenny the Jet Smith.
He's not bow-legged at all.
No, he's not. He's
Have you
not.
seen him?
But nonetheless, okay, a lot of these historically great football players, I know I threw Caleb Downs in there as a recent reference for you, but a lot of these historically great athletes are bow-legged individuals. Okay, let's go back to the tape. I was at this game against Colquitt County right here. I think this is the 2-minute drill. He called me, oh my Lord. That's what he called me, because there's a video of this play right here from a different angle that got put on social media, and I'm over on the far sideline. Okay, I'm standing over here somewhere with my camera crew. What are you laughing at Kenny the Jet Smith?
Yes.
Don't laugh at Kenny. Yeah, those are multiple knee surgeries, man. Don't be hating on Kenny. But anyways, their 2-minute drill at Lee County last year, because they had no wide receiver weapons, their 2-minute drill was, hey, just hand Usman the ball. Let's see if we make something happen. And so this is right here. There's like a minute and a half left on the clock. Lee County's running the football with no timeouts. So I'm like, they must be conceding it. No, they weren't conceding it. Their best option to score was this dude. So they hand him the ball with 90 seconds left, 2nd and 9, and they hand him the ball, and he takes it around, I guess, a 9-man box for 70 for a touchdown. And I'm on the sideline, and the clip that I guess Lee County tweeted out, you could see me standing right there, and I look at the camera and I go, oh my God. And so I'm like, what in the world just happened? And so when he saw me, he goes, oh, it's oh my God guy. Because he had saw the clip nonetheless. So here we go.
I would love to have been the DC seen the DC in that situation.
Just like, what in the world? How did we not get that guy on the ground? And yeah, you won't see very many light boxes that this dude's running into. Typically, there's the change of direction. And he just hurdled over that guy and then got out again. Yeah, he bounced back left. Yeah.
That's still a flag?
No, the hurdle in high school, no. This is what I'm talking about. Look, he hurdles this guy right here. And as soon as his cleats hit the ground, he's going to jump cut left again right here. Watch this. Boom. Then he jump cut left and got out of the corner's way.
He disappeared.
Okay? Yeah, he disappeared. Now we got the go-go juice to get back into the gas and get to 6. This is a combination of the two guys we just watched, I think. The combination of straight line speed, like he can really get on top of it and break you for 70, but also the change of direction that we saw from Bo Walker. I think Usman's got that at a much bigger frame. Usman's about 6'1", 225. Okay, probably listed at 220. But he is a really, really large and strong human. He's a 600-pound squatter.
I just want to see him put someone on their ass.
He's a hooper.
Yeah, he is a hooper.
He averaged a double-double.
Yeah.
Dog.
Bow-legged.
At 5'11", he averaged a double-double.
He ain't 5'11".
That's what they have him at.
At 220?
200.
No, they got wrong measurements. He was listed. Oh my God!
Come on, Timmy, get him.
He was listed on the Lee County roster that I got this spring at 6'1", 225.
Okay.
600-pound squatter, went 21 mile an hour in the catapult. I think that's fast enough.
Yeah.
Certainly think that's big.
It'll do.
If you had to pick of those 3, you can only take 2. Who are you taking?
Only take 2?
Only take 2.
I'll take Usman.
You think so?
Because I feel like the physicality is going to make you last longer and make you like. He seems like the most in between the tackles ready for me.
If I like picking two, like if I were doing this analytically, I would say like I'll go ahead and take Bo Walker and Bo Jackson because they kind of feel like two different types of players. That's kind of something you would want to look for in a running back class, in my opinion. But I do it's hard for me not to like what Bo Walker and Usmani do, just because like there's violence with them. It feels more balanced than it does with Bo Jackson.
So just to let you know, if Usmani doesn't come to Georgia, he's going to Miami or Florida State, or maybe Clemson. If Bo Jackson doesn't come to Georgia, he's either going to Ohio State or Alabama. Does that change your mind? Because one of them could very well end up at Alabama. The other one's going to the ACC if he doesn't come to you. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is that how is that? I mean, you don't have to answer this. Is that how things get handled sometimes within a recruiting department at a school?
No.
Okay.
Not at Georgia. You know, the you're talking about weighing the opportunity cost of that individual ending up in your conference. Do we want
to take this player so he doesn't go elsewhere?
Tell you what,
no, I don't.
I'll take I'll take Bo Jackson just because Bo Jackson.
Yeah, you got a Bo Walker and a Bo Jackson.
Bobo.
Yeah, but you'll have a Walker running back, dude.
Well, he's already committed.
And how cool will it sound to hear Georgia announcers stumble over Usmani Cromar?
That's a good point too. Like Usmani, like
they're all great running back names.
Yeah, they're all
they really are,
and they're all great backs.
Yeah.
But Josh Crawford loves Usmani as the number one quarterback or number one running back on the board. And I can see why. The twitchiness is still not quite there as it was on that Bo Walker tape, but he's much, much bigger, like we told you. I'm good, boys. Are y'all good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, we're going to call it a night on that one. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Make sure you're subscribing and all that good stuff. We will see you on Thursday.